we're going to go ahead and show how to wash a basket of eggs. You can wash them in different manners, but generally you don't want to soak them. Soaking eggs is really bad because it allows bacteria to get pulled into the shell and will result in a shorter shelf life of your eggs. So whenever we wash eggs, I recommend that folks use a basket so that water can flow through. And it makes the debris also flow through the basket so it's not hanging out at the bottom of a container. So what I would say is before you get started, make sure that your sink is relatively clean. You don't want to be cleaning eggs in a dirty sink because that is a point of contamination. This sink was just cleaned prior to us starting this video, so it is good to go. When we look at water temperature, we want to make sure that our water temperature is about 20 degrees higher than the egg's temperature. That allows the interior of the egg to expand as it feels that warm water on the surface and push contamination out through the shell pores. This is better for us and for egg longevity. Never wash eggs in cold water. You can wash in water that is a higher temperature than 20 degrees higher than the temperature of the egg, but if it's too hot, you may encounter something called thermal cracks, where the egg expands too rapidly and a hairline crack will form along its exterior. So this water is hot enough. It is warm to me. It's probably about 105 degrees or so. Much warmer than 20 degrees higher than these eggs, but it's still safe enough that I don't think you'll get thermal cracks here. And what I generally recommend is going ahead and wetting the surface of the eggs. And when you do a small batch at a time, this is a good thing to do because it starts to loosen up that surface debris, gets water in there and makes it easier to wash off. I've got a paper towel here. One of the things that we saw in a previous video. This is my cleaning method of choice. I'm gonna go ahead and wet that. And when we use detergents on eggs, we wanna use either a neutral dish soap, generally no color, no fragrance, or an egg washing soap. Again, it's made to be food safe. Here I have a soap, it's Dawn, to be completely frank with you, but this soap I found does not leave any sort of chemical trace in or on the eggs, and it is food safe. So I'm gonna go ahead, squirt a little bit on my paper towel here. This is a duck egg. Remember I said they're a little bit dirtier? So you can see all of the work that that water did already. Even if we just washed it with our hands, we get a lot of the dirt off there. But I'm gonna go ahead and gently massage the surface of the egg, hitting all of the sides, all of the angles, and then give it a good rinse. That's a clean egg right there. A little bit of staining, but that's normal for duck eggs. And then we'll take it, pop it on the towel to air dry, then we'll go through the whole basket that way. So now I'm going to show what this looks like if I'm using a brush. So we'll pull out that egg that had the egg debris on it. See how that's kind of stuck there? That's not really going to come off with a paper towel, so I'm going to use the egg brush. Go ahead and scrub that. Gentle circular motions. And yeah, that got all the egg debris off. So I'll just do a quick little shimmy around the shell. There we go. There's a clean egg. When we're going through our eggs and going to pack them, we want to keep a few things in mind. First, obviously, if you have multiple species, you want to pack the eggs separate because we're required by law to label them as the species which produces them. So when I'm going through here, I know that some of these are duck eggs, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them out. These are the eggs that we washed earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and do the separation early. Okay, and then the next part of this is size. So generally speaking, when a consumer opens a carton, they're going to want to see a pretty even size differential in here. So if we've got all these eggs, and then we've got one egg like this on the end, and then an egg like this somewhere in the middle, for instance, that doesn't look like a really uniform carton. It's not pretty. Consumers like uniformity. So what we would do instead is we would select eggs that are more closely average. We would go ahead, put those in, and there you have a complete dozen. That looks pretty uniform. The next thing we're going to look for is just general quality of the eggs. And I have a couple examples of eggs that might not meet quality and those that do. So a typical egg is approximately egg-shaped. It's not super round or super long. It has a wider end and a smaller end. And of course, one thing I need to mention real quick before we get any further is that when we pack eggs, we need to pack them narrow end down. And the reason for that is because there's an air cell at the top. And if we pack them upside down, we reduce those eggs' shelf life. So pointy end down. And that's easier to find with an egg that's approximately normal shaped. The next thing is we want to look for any surface pimples. So this egg, for instance, has extra calcium deposits, and this one does too. Consumers don't really like this. They think there's something wrong with the egg sometimes. And we know that it's just extra calcium that the hens put on her shell. But folks don't always know that. So if your customer base accepts an egg like this, that's all right. You can go ahead and put it in the carton. But if they don't, you could just keep it for yourself and make yourself a nice omelet. Something else we don't want to pack are stains. So these are actually, even though they're washed, a stain is classified as dirty in terms of quality and is considered inedible. So we cannot go ahead and pack that. So anything with a stain that you can see should be kept out of a carton. Additionally, here's a crack. That's a pretty easy one to see. That's an impact crack, so something hit that egg and pushed the the eggshell inward. Sometimes there will be leakers, and leakers have a little bit of egg contents leaking out. Again, those cannot be packed. But using a flashlight, we can see some cracks that may have developed over the course of our washing that we can't see with the naked eye. So I think this one here, that looks pretty good, right? Nothing super abnormal about that. But when we shine a light through the shell, boom, there's a crack. See that before. So use of a candling light can help us find defects that will keep eggs that are subpar out of cartons. One more egg that I want to show is this particular one. So typically, a hen puts a smooth coating over the surface of her egg when she's done with it, but sometimes there will be a rough surface. You could probably even hear that when the rooster stops crowing. But in any regard, roughened surfaces like this sometimes mean thin shells, and the customer doesn't always like how that feels, so you might want to consider also keeping eggs like this out of your cartons.